Grace and peace, you guys. Welcome back to Unshakable with April Chapman. Today we have a special edition. We're going all the way up to Gary, Indiana, to report on the city there that has experienced unprecedented disaster type weather. Appears to have been a lot of flooding. But what makes this story so unique, special, and interesting is the fact that according to them, the residents, 70% which are Black in Gary, Indiana, they are the victims of environmental racism. I know, who knew? Like, this was my first time. I think I may have heard of the term before, but this is the first time I've actually seen or heard of the term being used and applied in a real life situation or circumstance. So what we're going to do, we're going to look at some clips to see if we can sniff out and ascertain if what we are witnessing up in Gary, Indiana is environmental racism. Now, based on my initial assessment, after watching the clips and the news coverage and listening to the mayor and looking at the power company that's being implicated in this disaster, I don't believe this is a form of environmental racism, but we'll talk a little bit about that. But for now, let's take a look. Let's take a look at these clips.
We know why they not coming out here though. I mean, it's obvious, it's obvious. Gary is full of, us, diversity. Yeah. Not really diversity, but it's full of Black people. Yeah. We the blackest city out here. So they don't want to check on us.
Yeah. They're NIPSCO. Everybody pays them. We don't pay, we get cut off. But when disaster happens, they want to charge us X amount of dollars, but we already paying into this. They got billions, trillions of dollars. We working day to day on paychecks. So yes, they could have did better. They got the money. We don't got the money. They say they supposed to maintenance that yearly. They haven't been out here in a year or two, maybe 3 years. I can't sleep at night because I can't plug my sleep apnea machine up. I can't afford a generator. I'm working on a month salary. So therefore, we need them to either give us generators or get this power up and running. We got a 91-year-old man that lived at the end, almost at the end of the thing. They had to rush him to the hospital. We had an elder lady across the street. She had medical condition. She bedridden. People come out to help her also. So we really need them to work more faster because we don't want to lose no lives if we don't have to. Our governor needs to get his butt out here and see the damage. You going in these other neighborhoods, you need to go through the whole city of Gary.
We do see people trying to give out free food and just give back.
I want to be.
Okay, wait. Okay, wait. All right. So before we get to this interview with Don Lemon and the mayor, just a few observations. Why does it seem like Gary, Indiana is just, put it like this, I blame this news affiliate. This news affiliate is so trifling. First of all, why are they interviewing Starkeisha and Starquasia with the tats and look like they got bullet hole wounds from yesteryear? I'm just trying to understand, that's the best representation that you could have found to grant an interview people who you knew they were going to give you the narrative, the victim, I'm a victim, chronic victim, I can't do nothing for myself and it's somebody else's fault. You knew exactly who to interview. So I blame the news for that level of exploitation. Then you had the next lady who says she ain't been able to get no sleep because she can't plug in a sleep apnea machine because they ain't got no power. So her is tired. And wow. And then she advised that, the community, they don't want to lose people. They've got some elderly, and that part is not funny. But it sounds like she was just giving us a broad overview of what's happening in Gary, Indiana. So it appears that they have been without power for an extended period of time after this storm. And we're about to hear from the mayor. Him is a little schizophrenic, him struggling with trying to figure out, is it racism? Is it neglect? Or is it not? He doesn't know. But I'm going to let him tell you all about it.
Gary has not been left behind. We have had support. We have had linemen working every single day throughout this entire storm, post the storm. It's typically communities of color are left behind during tragic events like this. The infrastructure throughout the entire footprint of the utility has to be upgraded.
Suzanne, that's right. And NIPSCO did confirm that they paused restoration efforts for some time around noon yesterday. They said in a statement they're working closely with law enforcement and are grateful there were no injuries. Gary police say 2 NIPSCO employees were inside this white Jeep you see with a number of bullet holes while they were scouting the area near Rutledge Street before 1 o'clock in the morning Saturday. That's when someone fired 2 gunshots at them, one bullet getting lodged in the back of a headrest inside of that car. There was no suspect spotted by police or those 2 employees at the scene. The mayor of Gary posting a video to social media denying that restoration efforts were ever paused.
And I don't want residents to think because of this one isolated incident that the work has stopped.
So we have an organized effort. We're actually meeting right now. We got a crew that's meeting with other people.
All right, so okay, so now y'all see why I said that the mayor, he's a little schizophrenic, because in one breath everything's fine, everything's going as planned, and no work has stopped, and then in the next breath, when he's on the live stream or the show with Don Lemon, he advises that, you know, communities of color are usually the first ones neglected. So I just have a few questions, because after doing just a little research, not a lot, you can determine that Gary, Indiana, yes, it is indeed 70% Black Americans. So it's a Black city. But when you look at the Black leadership, you got a Black mayor. Most of your city council is Black. And then even if the mayor wants to blame NIPSCO, what a name. That's the name of the local power company there that's responsible for providing the electrical service. When you look at the executive leadership of NIPSCO, oh, it's like a DEI heaven. It's Black folks everywhere, particularly Black women. So let's go ahead and let's try to get into the story to see what exactly in the environmental racism schizophrenia is happening. You got Betty ain't been able to get no sleep because she got sleep apnea, but can't use her sleep apnea machine. Why y'all leaving Betty vulnerable and so many other Black folks without power? Well, I've got a few reasons. We see here that one of the residents indicated that the governor needed to get involved because she believes that he's being negligent and not caring about the Blacks, and you know, they believe that they are being unfairly targeted and discriminated against in terms of being able to get their power restored after this storm. Well, if that is your argument, last time I checked, I mean, my only point of reference is like Hurricane Katrina. That was a very large, wide scale, disaster, where we saw firsthand where a local mayor, he is the boots on the ground lieutenant. He the head person in charge. He is the one that is supposed to oversee all of the disaster relief efforts and make sure emergency preparedness is up to par and up to the standard, so that if in the event a natural disaster happens, he knows what to do. He's mobilizing and telling everybody where to go and how to get there. Well, you have a Black mayor. So I'm trying to understand, how is this environmental racism when the mayor looks like you and he appeared to seem on one hand that he had everything under control. This is before he needed a scapegoat, right? Before he needed a scapegoat and had to blame the white man, he claimed everything was under control. But then you've got this parallel story happening where some of the linemen, or I guess utility trucks that were responsible for restoring the power, yeah, they got gunshots. Somebody done wet up the truck. Somebody done wet up the truck where the people who are responsible for restoring power, well, they were unable to do that because out of fear for their lives and their safety. There was a gunshot and one in the headrest, like a bullet lodged in the headrest. And we don't know if these people were attempting to take the utility employees out or if there was someone else that was the object of their wrath. But in any event, According to the mayor, the efforts to restore power have not been halted. Everything is good. Well, it seems as if this community don't have adequate generators and things like that. They've been without power for a very, very long time. And to me, this seems like everybody is looking for someone to blame. Well, that's going to be difficult to do in light of the fact that your mayor, not the governor. Now, the mayor would need to call the governor if he feels he needs assistance and doesn't have adequate resources to get to get things back under control. But not just that, you have a power company, NIPSCO. What a name. They are the power company in charge that is responsible for restoration. And based on this story, it appears as if the power company is the one that is negligent in the way of failing to cut back trees on schedule and just maintain the areas that they would be responsible for if in the event a storm hit, to make sure that nothing is negligent, the trees are cut back, power lines are serviced, everything is up to standard. Well, NIPSCO has been negligent. Well, let's go ahead and take a look. Let's see if we can figure out why NIPSCO has been negligent.
This is, to me, it feels like neglect. Do you think that some of that neglect comes from, or is happening, if you feel that way? It may be in part because Gary is a black working class city.
Hold on, before I let him answer that, why is the neglect or the excuse for everything always because we are black? Now, I'm not saying that Don is wrong. I'm just trying to figure out why is that like the first initial response. Now, if it were me, to be fair, I would say, yes, this is neglect. I would say this is also representative of incompetent leadership. And then once you dig a little deeper, y'all are probably going to see it is a combination of incompetent leadership that just happens to be black. Now, is the leadership incompetent because they black? Or is it because they are black, they are incompetent leadership? I don't know which came first, the chicken or the egg, but here's what we do know. There's been some negligence, but I don't like how this is being framed as environmental racism, that because the people in the community are black, that NIPSCO is being negligent. I just think NIPSCO has poor leadership, and y'all about to see, when you see the roster of DEI hires, it's going to give you some insight as to why.
100%. I believe a couple things are at play here. During the middle of the restoration process, the utility company, in full transparency, 15 years, I worked for that company, so I know about the process. They were releasing the updates of restoration, and Gary was not listed on that restoration list. Gary is the largest geographic footprint of a city that we have, not population-wise, but geographic footprint. And that was the moment that the extreme frustration came out from the public, because it would appear that we're being forgotten when you don't list out the actual restoration time frame. So that's where all of the mayhem really started to get triggered on the ground level.
Operating officer of NIPSCO. Karima Hassan Bey is vice president for gas operations. There are some other leaders that they have there, but their NiSource is the parent company of NIPSCO. Lloyd Yates is president and chief executive officer, NiSource Inc. Come on, guys, pull up NiSource, please. Okay, so Lloyd Yates is president and CEO of NiSource. Sean Anderson is executive vice president and chief financial officer at NiSource. Melanie Berman is executive vice president of administration and chief human resources officer. Melody Birmingham is executive vice president and group president of utilities. Kim Kuchia, executive vice president, general counsel, and corporate secretary. William Jefferson is executive vice president and chief operating and safety officer. Michael Lures, executive vice president of technology, customer, and chief commercial officer. Angela Sanchez, VP, chief communications officer.
Okay, I got to stop it right there, because y'all, okay, I'm noticing a pattern here. It looks like they are trying to not play Connect Four, but just make sure that we have a perfect quota and representation across the intersectionality spectrum. Now, I don't know who any of these people sleep with, so we're going to leave the element of peace stuff out of this. But let's look at Lloyd Yates and William Jefferson. Those are two black men. But then we have Sean Anderson and Michael Lors. Those are two white men. And then you have Sean Anderson and Michael Lors. Those are two white men. Then you got Kim and Melanie. Those are your two white women. And then you got Angela and Melody. Those are your two black women. So it looks like we got two, and two. They wanted to make sure they had a nice broad spectrum of DEI delegation across all intersectionality check boxes. Well, here is the problem. I can't prove this. I don't know. The skill set and the aptitude of what any of these individuals bring to this executive leadership team. But here's what I do know. We know that this utility company has failed miserably in the execution of some basic things that a utility company is supposed to be responsible for, i.e., I don't know, managing risk, right? Restoring power when power goes out, making sure like the power lines and then nature, meaning how trees grow, they're kind of like are in a symbiotic relationship, right? So when trees get in the way of the power lines, like the power company is supposed to stay on top of that, because if something happens, lightning strikes, that's going to be a problem for them. That's a risk management issue. So it seems like this executive leadership team of the DEI All Stars, it seems to be that nobody has the sense enough to know what the heck to do and simply held a position but were negligent in doing the basics. And now let's talk about the racism, the environmental racism component. We heard the mayor talk about how when it came to the restoration list, how Gary, Indiana, not not population wise is the largest, but geographically, I don't know what he meant by that. I would need him to flesh that out. But he says that they were last on the list. Okay, well, I need more information before I start crying environmental racism, just to figure out what he means by that. We need more context. But before all that, forget where they are on the restoration list. To me, this is a story more about negligence and the dangers of DEI, right? When you prioritize trying to make sure that you have all of the proper intersectionality checks, boxes checked. And what do we know about the experience level of any of these people on the executive leadership team in running a utility company? We don't know. But here's what we do know. We do know that they have been negligent in doing the basics, like I said, which is making sure that they appropriately manage their risk so that when a natural disaster happens, they are prepared. Now, we're gonna blame NIPSCO. NIPSCO has a lot to do with it, but this is an uphill battle for NIPSCO, in the sense that, can we talk about the gunshots? Like, the gunshots play a huge role in this story. If I work for a utility company and I just get word that, yeah, a team Omega over there who went to go restore the power over in Gary, yeah, the truck just got shot up. And I'm like, yeah, I'm not going over there. I don't want to go to a job site that requires me to bring executive level security. Like, if I got to show up with the police, I need a bodyguard, and I got to wear a bulletproof vest, I'm not going. Send somebody else. Send Taquayshawn. Me, Leroy, I'm not going. I don't give a darn whose Meemaw needs her sleep apnea machine plugged up. I'm not going. So that's one issue. We have a sounds like it's a serious crime issue. Then we have a mayor. We have a mayor who probably, it sounds like he really didn't have his ducks in a row when it came to disaster preparedness. Remember, you are the commander in chief, boots on the ground, first responder who is supposed to be telling everybody else what to do. You're supposed to be in communication with NIPSCO. You're supposed to be in communication with the EMS and the police, and just making sure everybody has the tools and the resources they need to get the job done, to get your people back. where they're supposed to be to make them whole. Here's what I think. I just think the whole city is incompetent. I think that since 2020, we have been prioritizing all of the wrong things and none of the right things. We want to make sure we got symbolism over substance, right? Why is it necessary to make sure that the executive leadership team of a utility company got 2 black women, 2 white women, 2 black men, 2 white men? Like, somebody make that make sense. Do you think that was a coincidence or that was a strategic hiring maneuver so that they can virtue signal and say, look how diverse we are. We've got somebody, just taste the rainbow. I can guarantee you 1 or 2 of these people are lesbian and somebody's probably gay. It's probably, let me see. No, I don't. Allegedly, it might be William. William's the black guy with the round rim glasses on here. Him may be a little, yeah. Anyway, we're going to move on from that. Here's my point. Everything is not racism. Okay. Now, just because you are the recipient of adverse negative consequences, that's the same thing. Adverse and negative mean the same thing. But just because you're the recipient of some negative consequences, it doesn't mean that that's happening to you because you are black. Sometimes it is simply incompetence, and it's probably in this case incompetence by the vast majority of people who look like you. What do you know? Let's look at the city council. Let's see if we can get some insight as to who is on the city council. So if we're going to blame racism, let's just go ahead and fact check to see where racism is probably going to come into the picture here.
So again, NiSource is the parent company of the company there that's in NIPSCO, that's in Gary, Indiana. And I'm sorry, listen, I'm from Houston. I've lived through 3 hurricanes. I understand power. We're not talking about a city the size of Houston, Texas. Okay? We're not. So I'm just trying to understand how in the world NiSource hasn't rushed people there to help NIPSCO when it comes to restoring power. We're talking about, this took place on August 11th. Today is August 24th. That is a very, very long time to go without power. You're dealing with food. You're dealing with food shortages, water shortages. You're dealing with the weather as well. And so this utility company owes residents Gary a lot of answers. And my understanding, they're still withdrawing money out of people's accounts for their electric bills.
Yeah, there are definitely still bills coming in the mail. And actually, looking at the list of their executives that you put up there, I was actually able to question Melody directly last week because she attended a press conference at City Hall. And what I want to do also be clear about is that this event knocked out the power to our entire county, which was about 300,000 customers. But the issue for us in Gary is the fact that Gary is the last to end up receiving their full power back. When I asked Ms. Birmingham, what issues made the recovery in Gary specifically so tough, and she spoke about the trees. And I even spoke with an arborist last week.
Right now. Okay, so, all right. So it sounds like this individual questioned the power company to figure out what happened. And unfortunately, and this is my fault, y'all, I'm not home. I didn't have time to get the whole complete picture of that clip. But here is what I'm thinking. The city council, those who are in leadership in Gary, there is a huge breach of communication and incompetence between the city council and this utility company. I don't know how the tax revenue is split and distributed, but it seems to me that, look, y'all always complain about representation. We want to be seen and why, we've been discriminated against. Well, you have 2 black women here, 2 black men here on the executive level team of the parent company of NIPSCO. Then from a city council perspective and a mayor perspective, like everybody for the most part is black. Who's being discriminated? Who's discriminating against you? Is it your own people levying environmental racism against you? I mean, how does the environmental racism work? Does it shape shift? I don't know. Here we go. Here's what I will say. At the end of the day, Everybody is always looking for someone to blame. Now, sometimes you are oppressed because of color. People, somewhere do that. But most of the time, it's because you're weak and just incompetent. Okay? You elect these people to serve you in a legislative capacity, whether it's city council or the mayor. And so many of us believe that if they are Black, that means they must be qualified to do this job. You cry about representation. You always want to be seen. Racism here, racism there, racism everywhere. Well, my thing is, why is it when y'all are in charge, nothing seems to go right? It be your own people sometimes that are negligent, not communicating to make sure that if in the event something happens, the city is prepared. Now, the whites, not saying that white people do not have this problem in their community with slower response times, but usually in communities where the whites are running it, the infrastructure is a little bit more stable. And granted, they still have to deal with challenges such as weather. Y'all know, y'all think the white man is God and he's superior, but the white man can't control the weather. So if he experiences a natural disaster, he has the same uphill battle as you do. The question is, why is it that other communities where the Blacks are not in charge seem to be a little bit more able to bounce back and get what they need? Is it environmental racism, right? Or is this a competency issue? Here's what I'm not saying. Am I saying that Black folks are incapable of leading and being in charge and doing anything right? I'm not saying that. Now, you may think that. I'm not saying that. But what I am saying is that in a lot of these situations and circumstances, when you place people in positions of power because they are Black, and you get your lineup, your DEI lineup with all of your Black representation, what ends up happening? You see, parallel to the DEI representation, you see a lot of incompetence. And it's because sometimes the best person for the job, they may be Black, but they may not be, because your aptitude and skill set and ability to do a good job is not predicated upon the level of melanin in your skin. Sometimes it might be an Indian who's just superior and surpassing everybody in this particular area. The next time it may be the Black guy. He may be the best to do what it is that he does. And then another time it might be the white woman. We just don't know how the Lord distributes the gifts, talents, and abilities so that everyone can flourish and be the recipient of the good results that said leadership offers. How about we do this? How about instead of blaming everything on racism and putting a superlative in front of it like environmental racism, whatever that is, why won't y'all just admit that the leadership that you picked and the DEI hires that you demanded have failed you? They have failed you miserably, on top of the fact that it looks like these Blacks, this group of Blacks, are woefully incompetent. And you wonder why people have an issue with DEI because of situations like this. Because you want to celebrate the symbolism. And then when the consequences of the symbolism lead you to a lack of substance, what is the first thing you do? Now you want to blame the white man. So is the white man superior and you need him to fix everything for you? Can you do anything by yourself? I thought y'all were the ones that built the country and built all these civilizations. What happened to those skill sets? Now, it's been a couple of generations since I would argue that has been the case. At one point, yes, we were the best to do a lot of things, full of skills, gifts, talents, and abilities. Now, it seems that we are majoring in a lot of begging and complaining and entitlement and victimization. That's what it sounds like a lot of us are majoring in. So here's what this video is not. This video is not an opportunity for me to beat up on the Blacks. No, it's not. You look, I love y'all enough to tell y'all the truth. I don't believe this is an example of environmental racism. I believe this is a prime example of incompetence and where DEI leads. It leads to woeful incompetence. Maybe, just maybe, We should go back to prioritizing meritocracy, and we should evaluate people based on their skill sets. And then and only then do we place them in positions where they have a proven track record of doing a good job. So, what do you guys think about this interesting story? There were more clips that I wanted to play, but y'all know how I do. My commentary can go a little long and I talk a lot. But I'm curious to know from you, is this a case of environmental racism? Is this a case of willful incompetence? You got the whole DEI all-star squad over at NIPSCO and at the city council and at the mayor's office, and can't nobody seem to get on the same page and get these people back some power. But whatever it is that you guys think, leave me your thoughts down in the comments box below. And until next time, you guys, stand firm, stay bold, and above all else, stay unshakable. Grace and peace.